Admiral Thexfor sat in his command chair, staring at the stars. The Galactic Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Every planet, every star system, every alien race, they all knew their place. They all followed the Empire's rules. The Empire's ships were the strongest, their weapons were the best, their soldiers were the most feared. Nothing could challenge them. Nothing ever did. That's why Admiral Thexfor was bored. "Sir," called out his communications officer, "we have a strange reading." Thexfor sighed. "What kind of strange reading?" "There's a ship coming into our space." "It's different." "Different how?" The young officer looked confused. "It doesn't match any ship in our database. The design is completely unknown." Thexfor stood up. This was interesting. In 3,000 years, the Empire had seen every type of ship. They had records of every race, every technology, every weapon. Nothing was unknown to them. "Put it on." "The main screen," he ordered. The view screen flickered to life. What Thexfor saw made him frown. The ship was big, almost as big as his own dreadnought, but it looked wrong. The hull was covered in scars and dents. It looked like it had been in many battles. Yet it moved smoothly through space, like a hunter stalking its prey. "Sir," the tactical officer said, "the ship's power readings are impossible." "What do you mean, impossible?" "It's not using fusion power, it's not using antimatter, it's something completely different. Our sensors can't identify what's powering that ship." Thexfor felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of service, he had never encountered technology the Empire couldn't understand. "Sir," the communications officer said, "they're sending a message. Put it through." The view screen changed. A face appeared, clearly alien, but in a way Thexfor had never seen before. The being had 2 eyes, smooth skin, and dark hair. It looked almost primitive, but there was something in those eyes, something that made Thexfor uncomfortable. "This is Captain Jinha of the Terran vessel Indomitable," the being said. His voice was calm, but there was steel behind it. "We request permission to pass through your space." Thexfor blinked. "Terran? That name sounds familiar." He turned to his data officer. "Search the archives, find anything about Terrans or Terra." The data officer's fingers flew over his console. After a moment, he looked up with surprise. "Sir, I found something. There's an old file about a species called humans from a planet called Earth. But sir, the file says they went extinct 200 years ago." "Extinct?" Thexfor looked back. At the view screen, Captain Jinha was waiting patiently, but there was something like amusement in his eyes. "According to the records," the data officer continued, "they were a primitive species. They had just discovered nuclear power when we first found them. The report says they were unlikely to ever achieve space travel." Thexfor stared at Jinha. "You're human?" Jinha smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I am. And before you ask, no. We didn't go extinct. We just went away for a while. But the records say—" "Your records are wrong," Jinha interrupted. "They're also 200 years out of date." Thexfor felt his hands shake. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be gone. They were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be nothing. "Sir," the tactical officer whispered, "I'm getting more readings on that ship. The armor plating is thicker than anything we've ever seen, and there are weapons systems I don't recognize." "How many weapons?" Thexfor asked. I can't tell. Sir, the ship seems to be hiding most of its capabilities." Jinha's voice came through the speakers again. "Admiral Thexfor, isn't it? Your reputation reaches even to the far corners of the galaxy, even to places where humanity has made its new home." "New home?" Thexfor managed to say. "Oh yes. You see, when your empire decided we were too primitive to matter, we took the hint. We left the civilized parts of the galaxy and went to places no one else wanted to go. Dark places. Cold places. Places where only the strongest could survive." Jinha leaned forward and his eyes seemed to glow. "We learned things out there, Admiral. We learned how to live in the void. We learned how to make the impossible possible. We learned how to turn weakness into strength. That's impossible, Thexvor said. No species can survive in deep space without support. No other species, Jin-Ha agreed. But humans are different. We adapt. We overcome. We never give up. The tactical officer's voice was shaking now. Sir, I'm reading more ships. More ships? Yes, sir. They're appearing out of nowhere. I count 12, no, 20, sir. I've lost count. There are dozens of them. Thexvor spun around. What do you mean appearing out of nowhere? They're using some kind of stealth technology we've never seen before. They were there all along, but we couldn't detect them. On the view screen, Jin-Ha's smile grew wider. The Indomitable didn't come alone, Admiral. Humans rarely travel alone anymore. We learned that lesson the hard way. How many ships? Thexvor demanded. Enough, Jin-Ha said simply. More than enough. Thexvor looked at his tactical display. Red dots were appearing all around his fleet. Human ships emerging from the darkness like ghosts. His mighty dreadnought was surrounded. What do you want? Thexvor asked. Right now, just passage through your space. We have business elsewhere. And if I refuse? Jin-Ha's expression didn't change. Then you'll learn why the galaxy should never have forgotten about humanity. The bridge was silent. Every officer stared at the view screen at this impossible human who claimed his extinct species had returned. Sir, the communications officer whispered. What are your orders? Thexvor stared at Jin-Ha. In all his years of service, he had never felt fear. The Empire was too strong, too powerful. But looking at this human, seeing those dark ships surrounding his fleet, he felt something he had never experienced before. He felt doubt. Captain Jin-Ha, he said slowly, exactly how long have your people been out there? 200 years, Admiral. 200 years of learning. 200 years of growing stronger. 200 years of preparing for this moment. Preparing. For what? Jin-Ha's eyes gleamed. For the day when humanity comes home. Deep inside the Empire's capital world, senior analyst Ha-Rin worked through the night. Her job was to find answers when the Empire needed them most. Right now, the Empire needed to know everything about humans. The emergency alert had come from Admiral Thexvor's fleet 6 hours ago. Humans were back. Humans who were supposed to be extinct. Humans with ships that defied all known technology. Ha-Rin's forearms moved quickly across multiple data screens. She pulled up every file about humans from the last 300 years. What she found made her blood run cold. This can't be right, she whispered to herself. The oldest files showed humans as they were first discovered. A young species on a small blue planet called Earth. They had just learned to split atoms. They barely had rockets that could reach their own moon. The Empire's scientists had rated them as no threat, and unlikely to achieve space travel for at least 10,000 years. But as Ha-Rin dug deeper, she found something else. Reports that had been buried, forgotten, or marked as unimportant. 200 years ago, the Empire had made contact with human colonies near Proxima Centauri. The official report said the humans had been relocated for their own safety. But Ha-Rin found the real reports, the classified ones. The humans hadn't been relocated. They had fought back. Impossible, Ha-Rin breathed, reading the battle reports. They fought Imperial ships with primitive weapons. According to the classified files, the humans had used everything they could find. Mining ships rammed into Imperial cruisers, cargo vessels packed with explosives, even human soldiers in simple spacesuits attacking Imperial Marines with nothing but determination and crude weapons. The Empire had won, of course, but the victory had cost them. 3 Imperial ships destroyed, hundreds of soldiers dead, all because of a species that barely knew how to fly between planets. After that, the Empire had declared humans extinct. It was easier than admitting they had been hurt by primitives. But Ha-Rin found more files, scattered reports from the past 2 centuries, deep space monitoring stations going dark, survey ships disappearing near the galactic rim, strange energy, readings from empty systems. All of it had been explained away. Equipment failure, navigation errors. Natural phenomena. Now Harin realized the truth. It hadn't been equipment failure. It had been humans. She pulled up her communication system and sent an urgent message to the Emergency Council. Within an hour, she was standing before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Council members, Harin began, her voice shaking. I've found the truth about humans. They never went extinct. We drove them away, and they've spent the last 200 years preparing. Council leader Vextar leaned forward. Preparing for what? For this. For their return. Look at these reports. Harin activated her holographic display. Every deep space station that went dark, every missing survey ship, every unexplained energy reading. It was all humans. They've been watching us, learning from us, studying us. The council chamber fell silent as the implications hit them. How many humans are there? Asked Councillor Mordex. Unknown. But based on the scattered reports, they've spread throughout the galactic rim. Systems we thought were empty, regions we considered worthless. They've been living there, growing, evolving. Harin brought up the most disturbing reports. Some of these files mention humans who could survive in vacuum without suits, humans whose ships seemed to repair themselves, humans who appeared to coordinate perfectly across vast distances without any visible communication. That's impossible, Vextar said. No species can evolve that quickly. No other species, Harin agreed. But humans are different. They adapt faster than any species we've ever encountered, and they've had 200 years of isolation to do it. The emergency alarm suddenly blared throughout the chamber. A communication officer rushed in. Council leader, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Thexvor's fleet. Put it through. The holographic display changed. Captain Jinha's face appeared, calm and confident. Behind him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. But there was something different about them. Their movements were too coordinated. Their responses too quick. Greetings, Galactic Council, Jinha said. I believe you've been researching my species. Vextar stood up. Captain Jinha, we were told your people went extinct. Your people told you that because it was easier than admitting the truth. You didn't destroy humanity. You forged us into something stronger. Jinha gestured to someone off-screen. Let me introduce you to my crew. Lieutenant Quan, please step forward. A young human male moved into view. But as he did, Harin gasped. The human's eyes reflected light like a cat's. When he spoke, his voice had harmonics that shouldn't be possible for any organic throat. Greetings, Council, Quan said. I volunteered for deep void modification 15 years ago. I can survive in space without protection for up to 6 hours. My neural implants let me interface directly with our ship's systems. Jinha smiled. Quan is what we call a void walker. We have thousands like him. Humans who chose to adapt themselves for life in deep space. Another crew member stepped forward. This one was a female with skin that seemed to shimmer. Engineer Harin, Jinha said, using the same name as the analyst but clearly referring to his own crew member. She volunteered for quantum modification. She can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Very useful for our new propulsion systems. The Imperial Harin stared at her human namesake in horror. The human's body seemed to flicker in and out of focus, as if she wasn't entirely there. You, Sea Council, Jinha continued. You taught us a valuable lesson 200 years ago. You taught us that the galaxy belongs to the strong, so we made ourselves strong. This is abomination, Vextar declared. No species should modify themselves so drastically. No other species has to, Jinha replied calmly. Other species get to live in the comfortable parts of the galaxy. They get protection, they get resources, they get to stay weak. His expression hardened. Humans got exile. We got the cold, dark places where nothing should be able to live. So we learned to live there, we learned to thrive there. What do you want? Vextar demanded. Right now, nothing from you. We're self-sufficient. We've been self-sufficient for a long time. Jinha paused. But the galaxy is about to change, Council Leader. You've ruled for 3,000 years because no one could challenge you. That age is ending. Are you threatening us? I'm educating you. There are things in the dark between stars that you've never imagined, things that only humans have learned to face, and some of those things are coming this way. The transmission flickered, and for a moment, Harin could swear she saw something behind Jinha, something that moved in ways that hurt to look at. The galaxy forgot about humanity, Jinha said. But the galaxy has bigger problems than us, problems that only humans know how to fight. You're going to need us, Council Leader, sooner than you think. The transmission ended. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Finally, Vextar spoke. How many human ships are out there? Harin checked her data one more time. Unknown, but based on the reports, hundreds, maybe thousands. And they're all like that? Modified, evolved, unknown. But if Captain Jinha is representative, Harin trailed off. The galaxy had spent 200 years forgetting about humanity. Now humanity was back, and they had brought the dark with them. Admiral Thexivor thought he understood war. He had fought in 17 battles. He had commanded the Empire's largest fleets. He had seen every type of weapon, every kind of ship, every possible battle strategy. He was wrong. Sir, his tactical officer called out, something's happening. Thexivor looked at his display. The space around Jinha's fleet was starting to bend. It looked like the stars themselves were being twisted into impossible shapes. What is that? He demanded. I don't know, sir. Space itself seems to be folding. Then the silence came. Not the normal silence of space, but something deeper. Something that made every Imperial soldier feel like they were holding their breath. And then they appeared. Ships materialized out of nothing. Not dozens like before. Hundreds. They seemed to unfold from the twisted space like flowers blooming in reverse. Each one was different from the others, as if they had been grown rather than built. Count them, Thexivor ordered. Sir, I can't. Every time I think I have a number, more appear. They're using some kind of dimensional technology we've never seen. Thexivor stared at the display. In 40 years of service, he had never seen anything like this. The human ships moved in perfect formation, as if they were all parts of one giant organism. They didn't communicate with each other, at least not in any way the Empire's sensors could detect. Sir, the communications officer said, his voice shaking. Captain Jinha is requesting to speak with you again. Put him through. Jinha's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, his bridge crew worked with the same eerie coordination as before. But now Thexivor could see more details. The humans' eyes all reflected light the same way. When one moved, the others seemed to know exactly what they were doing. Impressive, isn't it? Jinha said, noticing Thexivor's stare. 200 years of isolation teaches you many things, including how to work as one. How many ships do you have? Thexivor asked. Enough. Jinha smiled. But you're not looking at the right one. What do you mean? Jinha gestured toward the tactical display. Look at the center of our formation. Thexivor switched his view. At the heart of the human fleet was something that hurt to look at directly. It wasn't quite a ship, it wasn't quite anything. It seemed to exist in several dimensions at once, and looking at it made his eyes water. What is that thing? He whispered. That is the Eternal Fury, Jinha said with obvious pride. Humanity's flagship, our greatest achievement. It's not possible. Nothing can look like that and still exist. You're right, it shouldn't exist, but humans have a talent for making the impossible possible. The thing that Jinha called the Eternal Fury pulsed with dark energy. As it did, space around it rippled like water. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend around it. How? Thexivor managed to ask. The Eternal Fury is crewed by volunteers, Jinha explained. Humans who gave up their physical bodies to become one with the ship itself. They exist between life and death, between matter and energy. We call them the Void Walkers. Thexivor felt his blood freeze. You sacrificed your own people? Sacrificed? Jinha looked surprised. Admiral, they volunteered. Every single one of them. They wanted to become something more than human, something that could survive anything the universe could throw at us. That's madness. Is it? Your empire has ruled for 3,000 years because you were stronger than everyone else. But what happens when you meet something stronger than you? Thexvor didn't answer. He couldn't answer. The crew of the Eternal Fury are still human, Jinha continued. They still think. They still feel. They still remember what it means to protect their family. But now they can do it in ways that don't require a physical body. The impossible ship pulsed again, and this time Thexvor could swear he heard something. Voices, hundreds of voices, all speaking in harmony. They were singing something that sounded like a lullaby, but in a language he didn't recognize. They're singing, he said. They always sing. It helps them stay connected to what they used to be. It reminds them of home. Home? But they're not even alive anymore. Jinha's expression became sad. Admiral, do you know what home means to a human who has spent 200 years in exile? Home isn't a place. It's not even a planet. Home is the people you protect, the family you fight for, the future you build. But they gave up everything. They gave up their bodies. They kept their souls. They kept their purpose. They kept their humanity. Jinha leaned forward. That's what you never understood about us, Admiral. Humans don't survive because we're strong. We survive because we never give up what matters most. The tactical officer's voice interrupted them. Sir, I'm reading more ships approaching. Imperial reinforcements. Thexvor looked at his display. The 3rd, 7th, and 12th Imperial fleets were arriving. Over 3,000 ships. The largest military force the Empire had ever assembled. Your reinforcements have arrived, Jinha observed calmly. Surrender now, and we'll spare your people, Thexvor said. Though he wasn't sure he believed it himself, Jinha laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh. It was the laugh of someone who knew a secret that others didn't. Admiral, you still don't understand. We're not here to fight you. We're here to save you. Save us? From what? From what's coming. From what we've been fighting in the dark for the past 50 years. What are you talking about? Jinha's expression became deadly serious. There are things in the void between galaxies, Admiral. Things that hunger for life, for warmth, for everything that makes a civilization worth protecting. We've been holding them back, but they're getting stronger. That's impossible. Is it? You thought humans were impossible too. The Eternal Fury pulsed again, and this time the singing grew louder. The voices were no longer singing a lullaby. They were singing something that sounded like a war song. They're coming, Admiral, Jinha said quietly. And when they arrive, you're going to understand why humanity had to become what we are. You're going to understand why we had to evolve, why we had to adapt. What are they? We call them the Devourers. They eat stars. They consume entire solar systems. They turn thriving worlds into empty space. Thexvor felt his hands shake. How do you fight something like that? You become something they can't devour. You become something they can't understand. You become human. The singing from the Eternal Fury reached a crescendo, and suddenly every Imperial ship in the fleet received the same message. This is the crew of the Eternal Fury. We were human once. We chose to become more. We chose to become the wall between the light and the dark. We chose to become the guardians of everything we love. The Devourers are coming. They will be here soon. When they arrive, you will understand why we became what we are. You will understand why humanity had to evolve. We are the fire that burns in the void. We are the song that never ends. We are human and we are home. The first sign of the Devourers was the darkness. Not the normal darkness of space, but something deeper. Something wrong. Stars began to dim along the galactic rim. Then they began to disappear entirely. Sir, the sensor operator called out, his voice filled with terror. I'm reading massive gravitational distortions. Something enormous is approaching from outside the galaxy. Admiral Thexvor stared at his tactical display. The readings made no sense. Whatever was coming was larger than entire star systems. How big? He asked. I can't measure it, sir. It's beyond our sensor's capability. Captain Jinha's voice came through the communication system. Admiral, you're about to see why humanity became what we are. The space at the edge of the system began to tear, not like the human ships had done, but like reality itself was being ripped apart. Through the tears came something that hurt to look at. It was darkness given form, hunger made solid. What is that? Thexavor whispered. That, Jinha said grimly, is a devourer scout. The small ones. Small? The thing was the size of a moon. Its surface writhed with tentacles that seemed to be made of pure emptiness. Where they touched space, stars went out. How do you fight something like that? Thexavor asked. Watch and learn. The human fleet moved as one. Every ship turned toward the devourer, and suddenly the eternal fury began to sing louder. The voices of the dead crew members rose in harmony, creating a sound that seemed to fill all of space. The Imperial ships opened fire first. Their most powerful weapons struck the devourer directly. The energy beams simply disappeared into its dark surface as if they had never existed. Our weapons aren't working, the tactical officer reported. Of course they're not, Jinha said. Devourers don't just eat matter and energy. They eat existence itself. Normal weapons can't hurt something that consumes reality. Then the human ships attacked, but they didn't use normal weapons. Instead, the eternal fury released something that looked like liquid starlight. When it touched the devourer, the creature screamed. The sound was so horrible that several Imperial officers collapsed. What was that? Thexavor demanded. Concentrated life force, Jinha explained. The crew of the Eternal Fury channels their very souls into weapon form. It's the only thing that can hurt a devourer. The battle was unlike anything Thexavor had ever seen. The humans fought with weapons made of pure willpower. They used their own life energy as ammunition. And slowly, impossibly, they were winning. But then more tears appeared in space. Bigger ones. Sir, the sensor operator's voice cracked. More contacts. Dozens of them. Through the tears came more devourers. These ones were larger. Some were the size of planets, and behind them, barely visible through the dimensional rifts, was something so vast it defied comprehension. The Hive Mother, Jinha said quietly. We've been running from her for 50 years. Running? But you said you were fighting them. We were buying time, slowing them down, learning their weaknesses. But we always knew this day would come. The new devourers spread out across the system. Everywhere they went, reality began to break down. Planets simply ceased to exist. Stars were consumed before they could even begin to burn out. We can't fight all of them, Thexavor said. No, Jinha agreed. We can't. But we can do something else. What? We can show you what it truly means to be human. The Eternal Fury moved toward the largest group of devourers. As it did, its song changed. The voices of its crew began singing something new, something that sounded like a goodbye. What are they doing? Thexavor asked. They're going to sacrifice themselves, Jinha said simply. They're going to channel every bit of their existence into one final attack. But that will kill them. They're already dead, Admiral. They died the day they volunteered to become something more than human. But their purpose lives on. The Eternal Fury reached the center of the Devourer formation and stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then it began to glow. The light wasn't like anything Thexavor had ever seen. It was warm, comforting, and impossibly bright. It reminded him of childhood memories, of safety, of home. That's not just light, he realized. No, Jinha said. That's hope. That's love. That's every human emotion that says we will not give up. That's the fire that burns in every human heart. The Eternal Fury exploded, but it wasn't destruction. It was transformation. The light spread outward, touching every devourer in the system. Where it touched them, They began to change. Their darkness became light. Their hunger became satisfaction. Their emptiness became fullness. They're changing, Thexavor breathed. Humans don't just fight our enemies, Jinha explained. We transform them. We show them that there's something better than consuming everything around you. We show them what it means to protect instead of destroy. One by one, the devourers stopped their attack. They floated in space, no longer hungry, no longer angry. The darkness that had surrounded them was replaced by a gentle glow. Even the massive hive mother, visible through the dimensional tiers, had stopped moving. She was listening to something. The song that the crew of the Eternal Fury had sung with their final breath. Is it over? Thexavor asked. This battle is, Jinha said. But there will be others. There are always others. That's why humanity became what we are. Not to rule the galaxy, but to protect it. The remaining human ships began to move. They surrounded the transformed devourers, not as guards, but as guides. What happens now? Thexavor asked. Now we teach them. We show them what we learned in our exile. We show them that existence is about more than just survival. It's about helping others survive too. Jinha turned to face him directly. Admiral, your empire has ruled for 3,000 years. You've been strong. You've been powerful. But you've never been what the galaxy truly needed. And what's that? Protectors, teachers, friends. Jinha smiled. The galaxy doesn't need rulers, Admiral. It needs guardians. Over the next few hours, something impossible happened. Imperial ships began joining the human formation, not because they were forced to, but because they wanted to. The crews spoke of feeling something they had never felt before, purpose beyond conquest. Thexavor found himself standing on the bridge of the Indomitable, wearing a simple human uniform instead of his imperial regalia. Why? He asked Jinha. Why did you save us? Why did you save everyone? Jinha looked out at the stars, stars that were shining brighter now, as if the galaxy itself had been reborn. Because that's what humans do, he said simply. We don't conquer, we don't rule, we protect, we care. We never give up on anyone, no matter how lost they seem. He turned to Thexavor with eyes that held the wisdom of 2 centuries of struggle. The galaxy forgot our name, Admiral. But we never forgot what our name means. We never forgot what it means to be human. Outside, the transformed devourers moved peacefully through space, learning from their human guides. The Empire's ships flew alongside them, no longer conquerors but protectors. And in the depths of space where the Eternal Fury had made its final sacrifice, a new star was being born. A star that would burn with the memory of those who gave everything to light the way for others. The galaxy had a new song now, a human song, a song of hope, of sacrifice, and of the fire that burns eternal in the hearts of those who refuse to let darkness win. Humanity had come home, and they had brought the light with them.